Hi, my name is Cassidy. I'm 31 years old, and last Thanksgiving, my brother looked me dead in the eye across a table full of family and laughed at everything I'd spent 3 years building. Not a polite laugh. Not an uncomfortable, accidental laugh. A real one, shoulders shaking, wine glass raised like he was already toasting my failure before it even happened. "Candles," he said, wiping the corner of his eye like I'd just told the funniest joke he'd ever heard. "My little sister is going to conquer Black Friday selling candles." The table went quiet. 14 people. My parents, my aunts, his wife. His college friend who somehow always ends up at our family dinners. All of them watching me, waiting to see what I would do. I didn't yell. I didn't cry. I didn't throw the mashed potatoes at his head, which, believe me, I considered. I picked up my fork, cut into my turkey, and smiled like it didn't touch me at all. But here's what Derek didn't know. What none of them knew sitting around that table. I had already spent 6 months preparing for the biggest launch of my life. My inventory was packed and ready. My email list had 4,000 subscribers waiting. My Instagram followers had been watching me build something real, something beautiful for 3 years. And 4 days after that dinner, on Black Friday morning, before Derek had even finished his first cup of coffee, my website crashed from too much traffic. $23,417. One day. Sold out by evening. Every single person at that Thanksgiving table found out about it. Every single one. This is that story. And I promise you, it gets so much better than you're imagining right now. Let me take you back because you need to understand where I came from to truly appreciate where I ended up. I grew up in Columbus, Ohio, the younger of 2 kids. And from the very beginning the family dynamic was written in a language I wasn't fluent in. Derek, 4 years older than me, was the golden one. The loud one. The one who filled every room he walked into and made sure you knew he'd arrived. He played 3 sports in high school, captained 2 of them, got a partial scholarship to Ohio State, majored in business, and graduated to a corporate sales job at a logistics company that he has described in loving detail at approximately every family gathering for the past 7 years. Our parents, Dad, a retired civil engineer, Mom, a part-time bookkeeper, treated Derek's accomplishments like family heirlooms, something to be polished and displayed. His promotions were announced at dinner. His bonuses were mentioned in phone calls to relatives. His opinions on money, business, and life were treated as something close to gospel. And me. I was the quiet one. The one who read too much, made things with her hands, filled notebooks with ideas nobody asked about. I wasn't invisible exactly. More like I existed slightly out of focus. There but not quite seen. My mother had this phrase she used about me, delivered always with just enough warmth to make it sting. "Cassidy has creative ambitions." Said it the way you'd say someone has a charming accent or an unusual hobby. Something sweet and harmless and ultimately not serious. I went to a smaller school, studied marketing, graduated without a ceremony anyone rearranged their schedule for, and spent 3 years at a corporate marketing job that paid my bills and slowly hollowed me out from the inside. Every Monday felt like a door closing. Every Friday felt like temporary survival. So 2 years before that Thanksgiving dinner, at 29 years old with $8,000 in savings and a terrifying amount of hope, I quit. I launched Ember and Ash, my handmade candle and home goods brand. Hand-poured soy candles, linen sprays, beeswax wraps, seasonal collections with names I spent weeks perfecting. I built the website myself watching YouTube tutorials at midnight. I learned product photography with a $70 ring light and my apartment windowsill. I posted on Instagram every single day for 4 months before I made my first sale to a complete stranger. When that first order notification came through, I sat on my kitchen floor and cried. Derek's reaction when he found out I'd quit my job to make candles was a single text message. "Oh, okay. Let me know if you need help with your resume." I didn't respond. I added that text to a folder on my phone I privately called motivation. I looked at it when things got hard. Year 1 was brutal and beautiful in equal measure. I made mistakes. I ordered too much of one fragrance oil and not enough of another. I underpriced my entire first collection and worked myself ragged for margins that barely made sense. I had 3 months where I questioned everything. The business, myself, the choice I'd made. But I kept going. And slowly, steadily, quietly, things started to work. By the end of my first full year, Ember and Ash had turned a profit. Not a life-changing profit, but a real one. Enough to matter. Enough to prove the concept. Enough for me to look at the numbers and feel something solid settle in my chest. At that first Thanksgiving after launch, Derek had called my business cute. Said it exactly the way someone says pointless. I'd let it go. I was still building. I didn't have the armor yet. By the second Thanksgiving, the one I'm telling you about, I had the armor. What I didn't know was how hard it was about to be tested. The months leading up to that November had been the best professional stretch of my life. Ember and Ash had grown into something I was genuinely, deeply proud of. 12,000 Instagram followers who actually engaged. Real people, not bots, who commented and shared and messaged me to say my candles were burning on their desks while they worked or on their bathtubs while they decompressed. A boutique in Cincinnati had reached out about carrying my winter collection. 2 regional lifestyle blogs had featured me. I'd been quietly building a waitlist for my holiday drop, the Hearthside collection, for 6 full weeks, and by Thanksgiving that waitlist had 347 names on it. I had worked on that collection since July. 12 cents with names like Woodsmoke and Clove and First Snow and Balsam and Ember. New packaging. Craft boxes with hand-stamped wax seals that I'd designed myself. Bundled gift sets at 3 price points. A tiered discount structure I'd mapped out on a spreadsheet at 2 in the morning more times than I could count. I was nervous about it. The beautiful, productive kind of nervous that means something real is at stake. And then I made a mistake. I mentioned it at Thanksgiving. Mom had just passed the rolls. Someone, I think it was Aunt Patricia, asked how the business was going, and I felt the warmth of all those months of work rise up in me, and I thought, just this once, let them see it. Really well, actually, I said, and I could hear myself smiling. I'm launching my biggest collection ever on Black Friday. I've been developing it since July. 12 new scents, new packaging, gift sets. I have a wait list already. I'm really proud of it. The table did something uncomfortable. A kind of collective stillness. And then Derek leaned back in his chair, wine glass tilted in his hand, and he smiled the smile I have been watching him smile my entire life. The one that says I'm about to be helpful in a way that will humiliate you. Black Friday, he said, nodding slowly. Bold strategy for a candle company. He said candle company the way a doctor says pre-existing condition. You know what major retailers spend on Black Friday marketing? We're talking millions of dollars, Cass. Millions. What's your ad budget? $50. Few people laughed. Marcus definitely laughed. Lauren looked at the tablecloth. My ad budget is my own business, I said, keeping my voice level. I'm just saying, Derek continued, and I need you to notice that phrase, I'm just saying, because it is the favorite shield of people who want to wound you and then claim they were only trying to help. I'm just saying, at some point a hobby has to become a real business, or you have to be honest with yourself about what it is. It is a real business, I said. I'm profitable. I pay quarterly taxes on it. I have wholesale accounts. He tilted his head. How much did you make last year? And there it was. The trap fully revealed. Answer and give him a number to dissect. Refuse and look defensive. Either way he wins. I looked at him across the green bean casserole and the good china and the family that was watching us like a tennis match they didn't want to pick sides in, and I said very calmly, Enough. He laughed. Turned to Marcus. She made enough. Back to me. Look, I genuinely am not trying to be mean. 7 years in corporate business. I've seen a lot of people with passion projects convince themselves it's a company. Sometimes love isn't a revenue model, you know? I just don't want to see you struggling. I didn't answer. Ate my dinner. I listened to him pivot to his own company's Q4 numbers, which were apparently absolutely crushing it. I sat there for another 2 hours, said my goodbyes, hugged my mom, and drove home through the dark November streets. I gave myself 30 minutes to feel it. The smallness. The old familiar ache of being in that family and somehow always ending up on the outside of it. I sat on my couch in my coat and I let it move through me. 30 minutes. Then I opened my laptop. I looked at my email list. 4,231 subscribers. I looked at my Instagram engagement. I looked at that waitlist. 347 people who had specifically asked to be notified the moment the Hearthside collection went live. I opened my profit spreadsheet and I looked at the number from the previous November. $19,200. In 1 month. I stared at that number for a long time. Enough, I had told him. I closed the laptop and went to bed. I had a launch to finish building. 3 days later, the Sunday before Black Friday, my cousin Bethany called me. We've always been close. She's 2 years younger than me, sharp as a blade, and one of the few people in my family who has ever treated my business like the real thing it is. I need to tell you something, she said, and I need you to stay calm. I sat down. Okay. What she told me rearranged everything I thought I understood about the past year. Derek had been telling people, family members, mutual acquaintances, apparently even some of his professional contacts who overlapped with my dad's social circle, that my business was failing, that I was struggling financially, that he was worried about his little sister. He'd been performing this concern so convincingly and for so long that Aunt Patricia had quietly slipped me $200 at Thanksgiving, which I'd assumed was just her being generous, because she genuinely believed I might need it. He had mentioned at a family birthday party in the spring, one I hadn't attended, that I'd nearly had to move back home. He had said something to his boss, who knew my father through a golf league, about our family navigating some financial difficulty connected to my situation. Why? I asked, even though somewhere underneath the shock I already knew. Because you're actually doing well, Bethany said, with the quiet certainty of someone who had been watching this dynamic for years. And he cannot stand it. You were supposed to fail, Cass. That was the story he needed. I sat with that for a long, still moment. Bethany, I said finally. Don't tell anyone we talked. Obviously, she said. I want a front row seat to whatever you're about to do. I thought about confronting him. I want to be honest about that. There was a version of me that wanted to call Derek immediately, light him up, let him know exactly what I knew and what I thought of him. That version of me was loud and angry and completely understandable. But I didn't call him. Because I understood something clearly. Sitting in my apartment surrounded by boxes of the Hearthside collection, 200 units packed and labeled and ready. The most powerful thing I could do was not argue with his narrative. The most powerful thing I could do was make it completely, publicly, undeniably false. I had a Black Friday launch. I had inventory, I had a strategy, I had a community. What I decided to do was execute it at full volume. Not as revenge, as truth. The distinction matters to me, even now. I wasn't trying to hurt Derek. I was done protecting him from the consequences of underestimating me. Tuesday night I rewrote my launch email. Subject line, she said enough. The Hearthside collection drops Friday at 8 a.m. I almost didn't use it. It felt too close to the bone, too personal. I used it anyway. Wednesday evening I filmed an Instagram reel. Just me in my apartment, surrounded by the finished collection, talking directly to camera. No script. I talked about building ember and ash from nothing. About what it felt like to pour everything you had into something and have the people closest to you refuse to take it seriously. About deciding to stop waiting for permission to be proud of yourself. I didn't say Derek's name. I didn't need to. I posted it and went to bed. I woke up at 6 a.m. Thursday to my phone buzzing continuously on my nightstand. The reel had 11,000 views while I slept. By noon it had 28,000. By Thursday night, the night before launch, it had crossed 43,000 views. My follower count had jumped by nearly 2,000 people in a single day. My inbox was full of messages from women and men saying this is exactly what I needed to hear and I'm buying everything you launch tomorrow. Priya called me at 9 p.m. Cassidy, the wait list has doubled. Do we have enough inventory? We did not have enough inventory. I stayed up until 1 in the morning doing math, shuffling units, making decisions. I went to sleep with my alarm set for 6 and the quiet, electric certainty that something was about to happen. Black Friday. 8 a.m. I was at my kitchen table, coffee going cold, watching my Shopify dashboard like it was a heartbeat monitor. Priya was set up in my living room corner, laptop open, ready for customer service emails. The Hearthside collection was live. The first order came in 41 seconds after launch. By 9 a.m., 63 orders. By 11 a.m., 148 orders. I texted Priya from across the room because I couldn't speak. She looked up from her laptop and we just stared at each other. By 1 p.m., 14 of my 24 product listings were sold out. Updated the site. The remaining items sold faster once people saw the scarcity. At 2:17 p.m. exactly. I know the time because I screenshotted it the second it happened. My daily revenue crossed $10,000. I sent the screenshot to Bethany with 0 caption. She sent back a string of fire emojis so long it took 3 seconds to load. 3:04 p.m. my phone rang. Cassidy. Her voice was different. Softer. Something in it I hadn't heard directed at me in a very long time. Something that sounded almost like awe. Patricia just sent me your Instagram. She said she ordered 3 gift sets. She said your reel has 50,000 views. 47,000 last I checked, I said. Mom, I'm really in the middle of things right now. How is it going? The sales. Really well, I said. I'll call you this weekend. I love you. At 4:45 p.m., Derek texted me. I have this text saved. I have it screenshotted, backed up, and I will honestly consider having it printed on a pillow someday. He wrote, "Hey, saw your Instagram thing. Pretty cool. Looks like a solid day. Lauren wants to order something for her mom. Can you set a gift set aside for her?" I read that message 4 times. The audacity. The absolute breathtaking audacity. I checked my inventory. Nearly everything was gone. I had 12 units of balsam and ember remaining, and a small reserve I was holding for the Cincinnati wholesale order. I typed back, and I want you to appreciate every word of my response. Hi. So sorry. Almost everything is sold out and what's left is reserved for a wholesale account. I'll have a full restock in January. Thanks so much for thinking of me. That exclamation point at the end. I labored over that exclamation point. It was the most precisely deployed punctuation of my life. By 9 p.m. the final numbers were in. $23,417. One day. Complete sellout. I sat alone in my apartment after Priya left, takeout containers on the table, laptop screen glowing, and I looked at that number until my eyes blurred. And then I cried. Not from sadness, not from vindication exactly, but from something more complicated and more complete than either of those things. From the specific, exhausting, exquisite relief of having believed in something alone for a very long time, and watching it finally, undeniably, stand up and prove itself to the world. I posted the numbers on Instagram stories that Monday. I kept it simple. Black Friday recap, we sold out. Full stop. From the bottom of my heart. Thank you. A small business newsletter I'd been following for 2 years saw the post. They reached out. The following Wednesday they ran a feature on Ember and Ash. The reel, the launch story, the numbers. They called me a masterclass in community-driven brand building. They described the launch as what patient, authentic entrepreneurship actually looks like. My Aunt Patricia forwarded it to the entire extended family email chain. All 40-something people. My dad called me that evening. He sounded like a man recalibrating something fundamental. I had no idea, Cassidy, he said, and his voice caught in a way I hadn't heard before. I really just had no idea. He wasn't making excuses. He was simply genuinely surprised by his own daughter, and ashamed it had taken this long. I let it land softly. He hadn't been cruel. He'd been blind. There's a difference, and it matters. Derek liked the newsletter article on Facebook. He liked it 4 days after it posted, which is the digital equivalent of showing up to a party after everyone else has gone home and insisting you were there. Noticed. I said nothing. Lauren sent me a private message. A real apology, specific, not defensive, no qualifications. She said she was sorry for laughing at Thanksgiving. She said she'd been thinking about it since that night and that it wasn't okay. I thanked her sincerely because I meant it. She ordered from the January restock. Derek did not. It's been several months now. Ember and Ash has a quarterly wholesale agreement with the Cincinnati boutique. Priya is full-time. I'm looking at a second hire before the spring launch. I moved into a new apartment, larger, with a real dedicated workspace. And on the first morning I stood in what would become my studio, sunlight coming through actual windows, shelves waiting to be filled, and I felt something I can only describe as arrival. Like I had been in motion towards something for years and I had finally, quietly, gotten there. Derek and I are cordial at family events. Surface level. He made one more comment in January, something about the challenges of scaling and whether I was prepared for rapid growth complexity, and I looked at him calmly and said, I have a business coach and an accountant I really trust. I think I'm in good hands. He nodded. He moved on. And something remarkable happened in that moment. Absolutely nothing inside me moved. No anger. No hurt. No old familiar ache. His words reached me and found nothing to hold on to. That is the part one needs you to hear, if you're sitting somewhere right now being underestimated by someone who is supposed to love you. The revenue on Black Friday was satisfying. I won't pretend otherwise. But the real victory, the one that actually changed me, was getting to a place where his opinion had completely, genuinely stopped mattering. Where I could sit across a table from someone who had spent years trying to make me small and feel nothing but a kind of distant, almost compassionate understanding of how limited his world must be, to need me to fail in order to feel successful. He called my business a hobby. He told people I was struggling. He sat at Thanksgiving with his wine and his certainty and his 7 years of business wisdom. And he looked at what I was building and saw nothing worth respecting. Black Friday saw differently. And every single morning now I walk into my studio. My real studio with proper shelving and a poor station and light that comes through windows I chose. And I start work on whatever comes next. Bring collection. New scents. New labels. New reasons to love what I built. I don't think about Derek in that room. I barely think about that Thanksgiving dinner anymore. I think about the next candle. The next customer who is going to light it in their home and feel something warm settle over their evening. The next person who finds my page because they needed to hear that building something real, something yours, is worth every single moment of doubt and every dinner table where someone laughed and said enough. I think about what I said back. Enough. More than enough. And I'm just getting started.